After the Light Died, Chapters 4 and 5, The Price of Tomorrow. "Come on, we need to head this way," Robert said and pointed to the northeast. The radio transmission was bound up only with his immediate squad, and he hopped onto the TB6 model bike that was unloaded nearest to him. And when his squad of colonists mounted their own, their engines whispered to life. With a state-of-the-art engine that converted the sound and heat to additional power, the only noise the motorbikes made was from the tires going over the terrain. Between their silence and speed, and combined with sensor data that tied directly into the heads-up displays on their helmet screens, they were the perfect weapon to wipe out some dumb animals and clear the way for the Terran future. And Robert had already concluded the best way to ensure the brightest future possible. Having scoured the maps and watched the movements of the four-legged creatures, he concluded that the largest unscorched group was almost certainly sheltering at a cave near the land he wanted to build a home on. With only a few million specimens spread out over the world, every point counted in ensuring he was in the lead, and it was with that in mind that he led his people to a waterfall that cascaded down into a river below. "A river? Robert, what's up with this?" Susan asked, her voice crackling over the radio. "This is no time for sightseeing." "Nope, it isn't. There's a cave down there, and unless I'm way off, there's probably 50 or so of those things down there. Easy prey, and it will clear up the area where we'll want to build a house, a mill, maybe even a hydroelectric dam," Robert replied and pulled his bike to a stop. "I'm not reading anything down there," Susan said when he dismounted. "There's 50 meters of rock between you and the cave. Of course you're not." "Come on, trust me," Robert urged and dismounted. The rest of his squad traded silent looks behind black panels, then collectively shrugged and dismounted. "Fuck! I had more to say and he goes and does that? Why do I get the feeling that him acting first and talking second is going to be infuriating over the years ahead?" Susan asked rhetorically. But she took her line nonetheless, and along with the rest of the squad, she hooked hers in place and began to hop her way down the side of the cliff. The water was beautiful in its familiarity, and the river seemed to roar on far beyond what her eyes could see. "We really have found a beautiful home. I can't wait to settle down," she thought with glee and distracted herself as she walked her way down the cliff face, thinking of the long and fulfilling life that lay ahead for them both and for her squad mates. As other crack shots, they would no doubt take land close by and become her neighbors. She thought of communities rebuilt, roads without holes from explosive shells or landmines, buildings that had never had to be rebuilt. It was worth the risk to come here, she told herself, but before she could imagine any more wonders in her future, she was snapped back to reality by the sound of Robert's rifle. He was right. "Hurry!" Susan shouted into her radio, though she didn't need to. They were already moving, and Robert hadn't gone much farther ahead than they. "That's one!" he shouted with glee, and the scream noise of the animals was drowned out by the sound of another gunshot echoing through the cave, then another, then another. He'd fired 7 shots by the time she and the others were down beside him and peered into the darkness with their night vision on. The cave glowed green, and she saw the creatures lying splayed out with legs in all directions. "There's about 50, just like I said. I got a handful, but the rest went deeper inside. Let the echo sync map out the cave for you, then let's go in together and finish off the rest. Gotta be careful, though. They can get on the ceiling, and we don't want them dropping down on us like some goddamn vampires," Robert cautioned. Working together, it didn't take long. The 4 creepies weren't cowardly, that was for sure. They tried swarming the squad of humans, but the bullets ripped through multiple bodies with ease. They tried ambushing the humans, going overhead or hiding in dark crevices. But Robert and Susan took the front, while the rest of the squad went behind and either took out the ones in hiding or the ones trying to go from above. And wooden spears falling to the cave floor echoed after the gunshots to tell the rest of the creepies that their most recent attempt had been a failure. Within an hour, Robert's estimation was proven wrong. Almost 100 creeper corpses were splayed out and scattered over the cavern. The last, a female and its mate guarding a clutch of eggs covered with other animal bodies. Whether that was as a kind of nest or a way to hide them or to feed them when they hatched, he didn't know. The pair of adults reared up on two legs and roared in unison, raising spears overhead and charging toward the squad. Their defiance echoed over what was surely the largest room in the cave, and the humans squeezed their triggers again. Rounds ripped through the black-shelled bodies, the heads flew to pieces, and they skidded to a halt with spears falling limp to the stone, just like the others. "You know," Robert said thoughtfully, "there's no age limit on the points here. If we crack open the eggs, we can get extra points for all those too. We could come away with 150 points easy, maybe more. And I'll bet money that nobody else has thought to start hitting these caves like we have. If we check the rest of the river, I'll bet we find a few more hiding spots. What do the rest of you say?" "Sounds good, but once we've got the deed, we got to make sure we come back here and clean up the corpses. We don't want them to screw with the water quality, and I'll bet they stink even more after they rot for a while," Susan pointed out. Agreed. The group said in unison, while Robert and Susan destroyed the nests. The rest of the squad began taking recordings of the dead to ensure their points could be proven when needed. When they were on their way out, Robert paused at the spear that belonged to the last of the large males. He picked it up and said, "Just a souvenir." They shrugged it off and went off to go hunt down the next little enclave of pests. 4 more nests were gone before the day was out. With the hyperspeed of their bikes, plenty of ammunition on hand, and modern equipment to support them, the creepers didn't stand a chance. And when the sun began to set on their new world, Robert called a halt for the day. "We're good. Hold up while I check in," he said, and chopped his black-gloved hand in front of his throat when the rest of his team went back to their bikes. They held fast without mounting their rides, and Robert signaled the ship. The tension was palpable. Those who had fingers on the handles of their bikes were clenching and unclenching them. Nervous gestures among others included fingers drumming against their thighs or on their seats. Susan was alternating between deep breaths and holding her breath in while she waited. He couldn't blame her, nor any of the others. The record of their hunt would determine the course of their futures. So while he put on a confident air for the rest of them while his data was routed shipside, inside he was picturing all the ways it could go wrong. Someone could have found a bigger nest, or maybe I was wrong and these were actually too few, or... As the possible ways of failure taunted him, the silence stretched out. He could see on his heads-up display that the other 124 teams were also uploading their data at the same time, and the auto-count camera filter was clocking the kills as they happened and double-checking the post-hunt layout for each hunt to gain a perfectly accurate tally. The one hiccup to the process was a kill that fell into some rapids when it was shot and couldn't be retrieved. After a moment, the counter-detailing team progress blinked, uncertain kill accepted due to mortal wound, and Robert immediately thought, what if that's the one that costs me this land? But his worry was short-lived. As the counters continued to pile up, the teams were ranked, and his team held a substantial lead over the others that never diminished by fewer than 20. He could feel the eyes of his team on him while they waited for word, and when it came, he saw his squad come up with a green rank 1 square at the top of the list. They may not have been able to watch the count happen, but when the ding noise went off, it went off for all of them. First rank squad, select your plots and proceed to your mark to receive delivery of your modular home and your colonial starter kit. Whoa! The voice of Michael went up first. The youngest of the squad and one of the youngest colonists on the ship, it was an open secret that he'd lied about his age on his application and used his deceased older brother's information to get his spot. Most of the time, you'd never have known he wasn't the age he pretended to be, but then there were times like this. He pumped his gun up and down in the air and actually started doing a little jig and singing. I got a house! I got a house! I got a house! Robert held out his hand, Susan took it in her own, and on the map overlay, he zoomed in close to where they were and picked a long plot that encompassed the waterfall, a chunk of riverland, and ample ideal farmland on either side. Susan traced her finger over the adjoining space, and the rest of the squad did the same, making them neighbors. Robert didn't linger on the selection screen. He raised the visor, closing the display, and said, "All right, folks, it's been good hunting with you. Let's head to our plots and get set up. Maybe we can have a barbecue later to celebrate if you're not too tired." "Say, do you think the creepies are edible?" he asked as an afterthought while the others raised their own visors to show eager, grinning faces. "No idea, but we can check with the ship's doctor on that. It might be worth finding out," Gabriel suggested with a casual shrug and mounted his bike. "As for the barbecue, not tonight. I've seen these modular homes. They're not hard to work with, but it'll still take some time. Maybe tomorrow. Till then, have a good one." He then started the engine and rode away. The squad laughed when, despite being in his 30s, he let out his own woo-hoo to match that of the 16-year-old Michael when he thought he was out of earshot. It wasn't long before Robert and Susan were alone, seated on the grass not far from the river bank, watching the water flow on without end, when Susan said, "My family used to have a farm in Kansas a long time ago, I mean." "I thought you were from Minnesota," Robert replied with a questioning look her way. "I mean, why else would you call soda pop of all things?" She snorted a little and took off her glove. When she set it down on the grass, he removed a glove as well and put his hand over hers. "Very funny," she replied. "Our family has a ranch out there, actually. That's where I spent the last few years of the rebellion, hunting down alien scavengers and scouts. But no, before that, we had a place in Kansas. They grew wheat there. It's all gone now." "The invaders?" he asked. "No," she said with a shake of her head. "Humans, actually. Some of my family members were collaborators, joined the aliens. They tried to protect the farm by playing both sides, and it got burned to ashes just the same." "Oh, fuck. I'm sorry, He stopped when she squeezed his hand a little. "No, it's fine. I'm fine. I'll bet most of the handful of women on the first run have a story like mine. Honestly, I was almost glad it burned. I was so mad at them when I found out they were selling humanity out for a few acres of land that I just, No, I guess what I'm trying to say is, I do sort of understand them," Susan said with a quiet voice while she watched some tentacle-shaped fish leap from the water and then land in it again with a splash. "You understand people who betrayed all of Terra?" Robert asked with a raised eyebrow. "Actually, yes. I know that sounds bad, but I do. They were trying to protect their home and felt caught in the middle. Supply the resistance, the aliens burn your home to ashes. Supply the aliens, the resistance burns it down. It sucks, but I guess people will fight to protect their homes, sure, but they'll also try to negotiate if that will be more likely to save their homes than fighting. Know what I mean? Here we are, this land is ours. We get to build a big house once the modular home kits arrive. We get to sow crops and build lives. And I'm already thinking, how far would I go to protect all that? And the answer is, really far." Robert pursed his lips and looked away from her and out at the land that was now his. Already in his mind the crops were tall and his life was good. And then he tried to imagine how far he would go to keep it that way. Fight, sure, but if I had to, the more he thought about it, the less traitorous it seemed. "I get it," he said at last. "This is ours now, and we'll keep it no matter what." "The modulars won't arrive for hours," Susan said, and before he could ask why that mattered, he saw her begin to peel off her shirt. The only answer he could offer was to begin to do the same. They had time, and that was all that mattered.